Alright everyone, yesterday SCOTUS expanded back to its proper 9 justices, with AOC and other people saying, we need to expand the court. You see, they're hoping to have more justices on the court. Wouldn't it be funny if Trump wins and he says, okay, I'm going to give you your wish, and expands it to 11 justices? But anyway, Amyconeybarrett is now on SCOTUS, which is great because we've got a week till an election that might very well not technically be decided on election day. For the first time, we'll be in sort of untested waters, because you can have a situation where SCOTUS ends up having to deliver the presidency to somebody because it's not clear who won. You could have too many states, for instance, nobody could have 270. You could have maybe Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, and other states not technically decided because of the mail-in ballot fiasco, and of course there will be rigging going on. I think ballot harvesting in swing states is profuse. You could have a situation where you've got no clear winner. And at some point you have to declare who the actual president is. It could be left up to the Supreme Court. The problem with having 8 justices is you could have a tie. And John Roberts is a liberal. John Roberts was appointed by Bush, big neocon, which is the same thing as a neoliberal. Pro-war, pro-corporate, not really a principled constitutionalist, and certainly no fan of Trump, since all the people that got him into power from the Bush era hate him. You could have a 4-4 split, because you have 4 liberal justices and 4 conservatives, 2 of which Trump appointed. Now you have that 5th vote, one way or the other, in Amyconeybarrett. It is presumable, and I don't say this is necessarily a case of bias, it is presumable that at the very least the 2 pre-existing reasonably conservative individuals on the court, as well as the 3 Trump appointees, are probably going to vote to put Trump in a contested election. This would cause huge social alienation among the left, just as if they were to put Biden in. It would cause huge social alienation on the right. The hope is that on election night we kind of know what's happened. The hope is that the number of votes cast for the winner is high enough. The threshold of electors is high enough that we're pretty sure who won, so we can avoid this problem. Again, though, the problem is that might not be the case. It's going to be a very odd election regardless of what happens. Now, Amyconeybarrett is not a perfect person to put on the court, but she ticks enough of the boxes that I've said I approved of putting her on there. The risk of not having that 9th justice at this particular time was too great, number one, and number 2, she's good enough. But the thing is, Trump had to pick a female, and there were no A+ candidates for the position that he considered. All 3 of the main people on the short list fall short in some capacity. Barrett simply fell short the least, but she's still a B candidate, at least, for the position. And guns. Certainly she's appears to be principled on government power and interpretation of the Constitution in general. That being said, being very pro-corporate, not necessarily a great thing. I believe in favor of the government's power to lock things down for the pandemic, if I remember correctly. I'm not really a fan of that, although that's basically left up to the states. Therefore not perfect, but acceptable. And it was important that she be female, because otherwise every leftist in the country would be burning shit down right now. Because, of course, she's replacing Ginsburg, the longtime leftist judge. And keep in mind, right now, Biden's camp is thrashing about in a conniption fit, rambling about how Amyconeybarrett has the magical power to challenge Roe v. Wade. She's going to destroy healthcare for tens of millions of Americans. Neither of these things are going to happen. What they're doing is, with regards to the ACA, what they're fomenting is the idea in voters' minds that Trump is going to get rid of the ACA and not do anything about pre-existing conditions. He has already stated unequivocally that he is going to replace the protections as soon as the ACA is gone, which I don't believe he can do it in reverse order. I don't think that he can ensure the protections and then strip the ACA for some probably convoluted legal reasons, decorum, antiquated decorum, but he's already pledged to that. And I believe him because he's already signed an executive order to that end. It's not like the Democrats would attempt to obstruct such a thing, because they'd be destroying themselves if they tried, assuming that Trump is reelected, which I hope he will be. On Roe v. Wade, Barrett has made it clear and plain. That is an established precedent from the court, and Kavanaugh would go along with this too, along with Roberts, so there's no danger to Roe v. Wade, even if Amyconeybarrett went completely insane and said, yeah, fuck abortion. By the way, she's a female individual. If you assume that she's got common sense at all. Got daughters and so forth. Why would she want to eliminate the protections of a pre-existing precedent anyway? It wouldn't make any sense. She's pretty much pointed out that that's not going to happen. And again, keep in mind that you have Kavanaugh on the court. His first major decision, in the very first wave of considerations by SCOTUS when he was confirmed, was to join Roberts and the then four liberal justices on the court in order to not take up cases by several states that could have endangered a woman's right to choose. Kavanaugh is not anti-abortion. He made this plain and clear when he was being considered, when they were crucifying him and claiming that he was a rapist who ran, rape trains on college girls and, was constantly wasted and stupid stuff like that, basically defaming him in front of his whole family. He made it very clear. And the liberals were still concerned, and nothing came of it. It's sort of like, it's almost like hyperbole. It's almost like that they say weird shit that never ends up panning out. Remember, Trump was going to cause a depression and World War III and probably a nuclear annihilation. None of that ever happened. China caused a major crisis, but Trump didn't. And none of these ghost stories that they basically tell about these different appointees. They said it about Kavanaugh. They said it about Gorsuch. Oh my God, if they get on the court, all hell will break loose. It's never come true so far. And the fact is now that now a third of SCOTUS is Trump appointees, all of which are young enough to serve for the next 25, 30 years. So you've got a Trump court moving forward. If he's reelected, I would like to say this as well. The other two aging conservative justices on the court should retire in order to preempt the possibility that another individual gets to replace him. In fact, they probably should have done that already. Then there'd be 5 Trump justices on SCOTUS. Wouldn't that be funny if Trump, the ever-maligned so-called Hitler, ends up basically reshaping the court for several decades? I think that would be just desserts for people on the left who have continuously obstructed, continuously rambled about things, pretending that the sky is falling, when actually things, by and large, had gone pretty good up until the coronavirus fallout. And even now, it could be a hell of a lot worse. My hope is that Trump is reelected and gets to continue shaping the court. Well, maybe Kagan will have a stroke or something like that, But Amyconeybarrett's on SCOTUS. There's a lot of salt to go around. And I'm happy about it. I'm not as happy as I would be if it were what I would consider a perfect justice. So like Amyconeybarrett's gun views minus, the corporatism and the pro-lockdown sentiment. But that's never going to happen. Keep in mind, Trump may be populistic and have some views that lean towards what I would consider properly understood classical liberalism, but he's not a dedicated libertarian. In the end of the day, he also has to appease the legislature there, which is, the GOP members, by and large, are neocons. So he can't appoint Ron Paul to the Supreme Court. That's not, unfortunately, going to happen. That's about all. Peace out.